There is a race that I must run. There are victories to be won. Give me power every hour to be true. Dumelambo maseve. This week we are in the Jetour Dashing Deluxe. Dashing Deluxe. And we're going to have a conversation. If you are new to the channel, welcome. My name is Riba S. I am a content creator, motoring reviewer, car reviewer, jack of all trades, master of none. And thank you so much for taking the time out to check out the channel. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon so that you can get notifications every time I upload. And if you're an upstanding member of the Maseve Society, thank you so much. Please do continue watching those ads because Kulavaga Gucci and all that jazz. So let's get into the dashing. Start with the exterior of the Jetour Dashing. Look, very bold exterior. Like, this car looks like something out of a sci-fi movie. It's very new, very different, very like outrageous for me a bit. It looks a bit wild, you know. So you have a thin strip of LED headlamps up in front. You also have your normal LED, the larger LED headlamps. And what I like is that they put a touch where they put a drive your future, the slogan of Jetour inside there. So it's very nice, a bit of a personal touch. You do have a sunroof as well. This vehicle sits on 19-inch wheels. It is white, and white is not necessarily my favorite colors. It's dependent on the car. It's not my favorite color on a car because I feel like it doesn't have personality. It feels like an Avis spec, you know. So a white car doesn't necessarily do it for me. When you move on to the rear, you have the Jetour badging just over the boot lid, the dashing badging as well. Some very nice detailing. You also have these very large rear tail lights, and I'm just like, they are quite big, hey? Like, everything is a bit overdone here. It's a bit overstyled. Well, that's just my thinking. I think it's a little bit overstyled. But you'll let me know in the comments what you think. When we move back onto the grille, you know, very cut out detail kind of grille. Very imposing car, I won't lie. Very imposing car. But the exterior for me, get into it a bit later. When we get into the interior, I think everything becomes very toned down as opposed to, or in contrast to the exterior. However, the first thing I noticed when I got into this interior, very much an excessive use of borrowed elements. So when I look at this interior and I sit in it and I look at the steering wheel and this infotainment system screen, very reminiscent of the Mercedes-Benz GLA and the A-Class range. Very much reminiscent of that, with the small screen. And also, before Mercedes moved into the touch haptics, this is what the steering wheel was like, the multifunction steering wheel. This is what it was like. However, that's just the first things I picked up. But to be quite honest, I love how toned down and how simple it is compared to the exterior, you know. So you have this infotainment system screen. It has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto connectivity, 2 USB ports up in front. You also have a wireless charging bay over here, some little storage space. That's where I usually put the key. And you have a gear lever, this protruding gear lever as well. So ergonomically, very well put. Not a big fan of where this hazard button is placed. Would have loved to have it on the dash. But I know in some Chinese cars, you find the hazards in the roof. Or on the roof. There's a car I think I tested. I think we launched it. The hazards was on the roof. So that's fine. At least hazards are not on the roof. So I'm happy about that. You then get a large sunroof, a large panoramic sunroof. You get electric seats, not just for the passenger, but just for the driver, sorry, but for the passenger as well. So very nice cabin, very well put out, you know. I love the fact that this car is very spacious. Very spacious. I'll give it that. Very spacious. Good use of quality materials in here. The dash, very well put together, you know. The thing that they missed, and I think that they by jumping this thing, Mercedes-Benz, they didn't put the circular vents. They put a straight one. And I'm like, yeah, I think never jump or name. More mfana, more about plagiarism It's plagiarism ela or turn it in law ne jambor ne bras molina alaika hela. So they borrowed a lot of elements, but they kind of just made it very Jetour. So yeah, very comfortable, very nice car. You have sport bucket seats, red stitching, red detailing almost everywhere. Very futuristic, very much a beautiful and a well put together interior. So I'm quite happy about the interior. I like it a lot. I like it. Let's get into the drive of the Jetour Dashing. So this vehicle is powered by a 1.5 liter turbo petrol engine or turbocharged engine that produces 115 kilowatts, 230 newton meters of torque, and is mated to a 6-speed DCT. And to be quite honest, it's a very interesting drive. Let me start with the first thing. When you put it in reverse, this thing needs a lot of input onto accelerator. You need to pace yourself on the accelerator, because if you go too hard on it, it jumps heavy, it jumps and I'm like, bruh, I'll ram into a tree, right? So that's the first thing. On standstill and when you have to accelerate and move forward, there's a lot of turbo lag, and it's just very sluggish and lackluster, especially when you are taking off. Even at the robots, it's very lackluster. It's a very wonky and a very disgruntled or disjointed kind of drive. I think the power outputs are fine. In its segment, it's fine. However, there's not much synergy or proper calibration between this accelerator, gearbox, and the engine. Everything is probably doing its own thing. Like, kumanzi panzi, aku hambeg, ki ashibrega, omolobu wiram koharata. Like, so there's not much connection, or like Adita Mesa, and there's not much. I want to step by step, but judge, like I want to step by step. It's just everywhere with this drive. It's a bit crazy and it's sluggish, and you know that's the first thing I noticed, especially with city driving. So what I've mentioned pertains a lot to city driving, right? So it pertains a lot to city driving. The weirdest thing just happened. I'll tell you guys now. Jetour. But when I get onto the highway and I did a bit of long distance driving, it's a bit better. It's significantly a little bit better. You can live with it for long distance. There's a lot of road noise, obviously, with this car. And I feel like the suspension also isn't just dampening all the bumps and dips on this on the road. But to be quite honest, everything I'm saying, I'm speaking from a more technical perspective. And I think the average customer who buys this car will not fuss. The car goes forward, it goes backwards, it goes left, it goes right, it can indicate. It's fine. I think the person who's buying this car doesn't care much about what the things I'm saying. I'm just giving you guys leeway in case you are maybe a bit more well-versed and you want a car that drives a bit comfortably. It's like I said, it's a very mixed bag of feelings with this car for me right now. However, However, to be quite honest, the car is a bit comfortable, very much a comfortable car. You can live with it on a daily. Jetour claims about 7.8 liters per 100 Ks. I am doing 9.1. 9.1. I've had this car for a few days. I have a very, very long time with it ahead, and I'm only on 2 bars of fuel. So yeah, I think the Chinese are very synonymous with high fuel consumptions. And I know it's a maseve review. I have high fuel consumption in petrol cars, but I think 9.1 or 9. So very high fuel consumption. So the drive, very, very mixed feelings about the drive. But I don't think you as the person buying it will hate it. So now let's get into the verdict. What does Maseve think of the Jetour Dashing? So the Jetour is basically a sub-brand of Chery Group. So as you guys know, there is Chery, Omoda, Jayco in South Africa. I think they also, Chery operates independently, Jayco and Omoda operate together. These guys are not under Chery, the Tigo brand. They are under Chery Group, the holding group. They are under the umbrella, the big group. So they came in, obviously, 2 products. They have the Dashing and the X70. And these are the guys who took us to China to see the T2 recently, very recently. And I think, you know what? It's a fine brand. It's actually not too bad, you know, considering especially what the pricing is. So the Jetour Dashing starts at 439,000 Rand for the Momentum package, for the Momentum spec. And I think this one, as we're testing it, well, not I think, this one is called the Deluxe. It's the top spec model. And this one is priced at 469,000 Rand. And to be quite honest, that is a bargain. I think this is probably the best priced Chinese car you can find on the market right now. It has a lot of rivals, guys. It's a proper SUV. It doesn't pride itself as being a off-roader. It's a proper city SUV. It has a lot of rivals. You're looking at cars like your Toyota Corolla Cross. You're looking at the Haval Jolion. You're looking at the Kia Seltos, especially pricing-wise. Size-wise, it's a bit of a big car, so it plays in a lot of fields. I could also say Cherry Tiggo 7 Pro Max. So quite a lot of cars in its segment. And I think it's the best priced product in that segment, in where it's playing. You're getting so much for under 500,000 Rand, guys. You are getting so many safety features as well. You're having lane change assist. You have this feature where it tells you not just your blind spot, but it tells you also in the rear that there are cars behind you. So before you change lanes, please be cognizant of that fact. You've got, such like you have, like I said earlier, blind spot monitors. You have a sunroof as well, guys. You have so many good features, electric seats. A lot of German competitors in that segment, under 500,000 Rand. Those cars are not as fully spec'd as this one. I hope I'm making sense. They're not as fully spec'd as this one, right? And I think this is actually a good bargain. This is actually for 469,000 Rand. Yes, I've mentioned the gripes I have, but I can't deter you from buying it. Another rival is obviously the Omoda C5. And when I check the Omoda C5, the top spec Omoda C5 will set you back around 500,000 Rand, and the mid spec Omoda C5 is about 477,000 Rand. So this one is cheaper than its stablemate, or its sibling, or its cousin. It's cheaper than that. And I think it's just it's fine. I think if you really are looking for a car that has quirky looks, a car that's new to the market, a car with a lot of features, a lot of tech, a lot of spec, a car that has electric tailgates, guys, electric tailgate. If you want a car that has everything, like everything, you want everything in a car, and you want to pay a fraction of the cost, I think the Jetour Dashing makes sense. I think it's the car to go for. So yeah, my verdict of this vehicle, I really do think that even with the wonky drive, and there was one thing that I also wanted to mention that I forgot to mention earlier. The one problem I also have with this car is how small this infotainment system screen is, because the icons are small. So when you touch, sometimes you touch something else. It also has this weird thing where when you press something, this thing pops up and says Jetour, always at your command. It's a bit overdone for me. But at 469,000 Rand, I can't say to you guys, don't buy the Jetour. I can't. I can't. Because now when I look at it, I'm like, brah, in a good way, like, and cars are getting expensive. So if I'm getting everything, all the bells and whistles for under 500,000 Rand, why not? And for me, if I'm looking at the C5 and this, I'm definitely taking this, not in white, but I just buy a Jetour. So yeah, I'm actually overlooking a lot of iffiness with this car, a lot of problems that I have with it, because the price is just too good to be true, and the price for me is amazing. However, with that very low price, of that competitive price, because the fuel consumption in here is absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, I think the Jetour is fine. So ultimately, I will give the Jetour Dashing a 7 out of 10, purely based on the fact that it's very properly priced. It's probably the best priced car you can find on the market right now, especially at brand new. 469,000 Rand is a steal. However, there is a lot of, they say goedkoop is duurkoop. So you pay less and you'll end up just spending more on other things. You're compromising quite a bit, especially on the drive and fuel economy. That's my biggest compromises. And also this infotainment system screen with the small icons. I don't get this thing. And the borrowed elements. This is very reminiscent of a GLA. So there's quite a lot of craziness happening inside the Jetour. But the value for money thing is something that I cannot overlook. And I can confidently say that at 469,000 Rand, I would highly suggest that you look at this car. When they came into the country, they already have a very sufficient and a very extensive parts distribution center in Midrand. We saw it before we went to China. So I think they also tried to make sure that they don't just come in with the car, they also come in with after sales and the reliability, just to add to their argument or add to their case. So that's a good thing. I think that's a very good thing. So yeah, I mean, I think hey guys, it's just a matter of preference sometimes. But I guess 469,000 rand, bruh, that is impressive pricing. I don't know how they got that pricing right. Crazy impressive pricing. And that is it from me, maseve. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Let me know what you guys think about the Jetour Dashing, you know? At 469,000 rand, what are you getting? Are you getting this? Are you getting any of the aforementioned rivals that I spoke about? Are you getting the Moda C5? You know, are you getting cars like the Cherry Tiggo 7, you know, the Haval Jolion, you know, your Kia Seltos and stuff like that? So at 469,000 rand, what are you getting? But thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to watch those ads, because Kulaveka Gucci and all that jazz. Woo, all that jazz. Yo, yeah, and fatigue, score sile. But yeah, I think outside of all the borrowed elements that I spoke about, it's a well put together car. I mean, it also has a 360-degree camera and decent boot space. So yeah. Yo, my China. Jetour. I'm not Jetour Magadize, guys. Yo, I'm excited. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.